Kia ora koutou. I have been asked to do a wee tutorial on how I've been making my beautiful masks. So that's what I'm going to do now. I do have a different pattern for the males, so I'll just run through the female masks first, which is the easier ones, and then I'll move on to the male masks. So first thing that I'm going to do, I have my fabric here on a flat surface, and I'm going to use the iron and iron all of the creases out of the fabric before I make my mask. So once you've ironed as many of the creases out of the fabric as possible where you're wanting your mask, what you're going to do is pin. Actually, first you need to fold it over, and I like to do the good side to the good side so that I can pin it straight away after again. Make sure your mask template fits, obviously, and then all we're going to do is pin this to this fabric, and then we'll cut it out. So once you've got your cutout of one of your fabrics and you've got your other one, we'll just do the same for the other one. You're going to unpin. After unpinning, it's easiest if you go straight along the nose edge and pin that back up because they're still really close together. Just make sure they actually line up. So it will look like this, depending on your sewing machine and where you're lining up the foot. I like having the extra fabric on the left side currently. Cool, so once you've got your edge pinned, what I do is obviously thread machine, which I haven't done yet, and then I do a 1 centimeter seam for the female noses, and then I just trim it back so that it's 0.5. So after you've sewn your centimeter here, I cut it back so that the seams aren't too big, so I'm just cutting it about halfway. So it ends up looking like this. Cool. So once you've got your 2 bits of fabric, 4 pieces sewn together, put the good sides of the fabric together and line up the masks so that the liner and the outside line up together. So especially in the middle of the nose part, you want the seams to be as close as they can be to being in the same position, and then you're going to pin along the top and along the bottom. So now that I've pinned both sides, both top here and bottom of the mask to the other sides, I'm going to sew at a 0.5 seam to the sides. So the way that I do that is line it up to the line on the foot, but however your sewing machine works. So once you have sewn both of the good sides in together, make sure you remove all pins. And then we're going to put our hands through the middle and turn it inside out. So I just grab the other end and then pull it through. And then you're going to make sure that all of the seams are as far out as they go. So I just like to wiggle the seams. The top of the mask nose especially likes to stay in a little bit, so just make sure you pull them out as much as you can. So you can already see it's taking shape as a mask, which is great. So on one side it's got this, and then on the other side it's got this pattern, and don't worry, this is my mask. Cool, so here comes the ear part. So thankfully with the female masks, they fit really easily onto both myself and my mum. Obviously at the moment I can't test it on anyone else, so I'm just gonna hope that when I send the masks out to my friends that they do fit, and I'll get some feedback if they don't as to how they might fit better. So what I'm gonna show you is what I do for the ears now. So as you can see, it goes over my ears currently. So what you have to do is you tuck in the ends part, so it makes it nice and clean at the ends. And then you're just going to pinch it together. And hopefully the fabric lines up. And I just hold it like that while I put a couple of pins in place. So that just makes sure that it keeps the end nice and trim. Once you've made a mask, you can measure it. If it fits well, this is another one of my masks, so if it fits well on your face, then you'll be able to measure where the ear loops need to go. So as you can see, this covers my ears a little bit. It feels nicer for me when it does, so just figure out what works for you. So what I do to measure them is I put them inside each other, and then I fold them in half and just check where the seams get to. So this one here that I just folded over, it needs to be slightly longer like the one below. So I'll just adjust that until I get it right. Cool, so once you've measured and you know that it's going to sit well, probably good if I show my ear. So that for me is sitting well. So you also need to measure up where you would have your ear loops. And what I do for the ear loops currently is I've got a whole bunch of brand new hair ties, and I just stretch them a little bit first. And then I actually break them in half so that you have your elastic for your ear loops. And then I'm going to slide those into the hem where I need them. So for me, it's about 1.5 centimeters from the bottom and 1 centimeter from the top. So I will go ahead and do that now. You might need to readjust your pins if it's too tight. So when fitting the ear part, I just slide it in and then I put a pin either side so it's not fixed in place, and that is so that I can just check that it is going to fit before it's completely in there. Sweet, so when you're ready, this is what this is what it looks like for me once I'm ready to go for the ear loops. So I've got pins that are bracing the nice clean edge here in the tucked in fabric. And then I've got lower pins that brace where this ear, I don't know what you call it, ear loop is. So I'm just going to go ahead. What I do first is I do a centimetre seam and then I do a closer seam so that it's all nice and tucked in. Cool, so I've just done the first stitch for the ear loop. So as you can see, it's a centimetre down here, and then I'm going to do one really close to the edge, but the first thing is that I check that it is actually going to fit me first. Cool. Cool, so this is what it looks like when you've got the two lines. So you've got one a centimetre down and one really close. And then you do the same on the other side. So to figure out for the other side, once you've done one ear loop, you fold the mask in half, making sure that both seams are fully out, and then you're just going to match the height that you've done on the other side. So now that I've done both of the ear loops, I'm just going to double check that it does fit. So you fit it to your nose first. And make sure that you can talk without it coming right off your nose. So that's perfect. And then because you can use them inside out, once you've washed it, if you've gone outside, you can then use the other side. So just quickly, the differences in the male template is that I've added a centimetre at the bottom, and what I do when I am putting the ear loops on is, I'll just show you a mask. So this is one of the male ones that I've done. And you can see that, so just sizing it up, you can see that there's some extra on the bottom. But what I have done is that their ear loops come right from the bottom edge, like right at the bottom edge. And I've tucked in the bottom edge. I did have a better one. So this was just when I was making the template, but you tuck this in to the seams before you do the ear loops, because then you can still use it inside out and you don't have this ugly seam. But this still works just as the black one. I will just note that these masks are not medical grade, so if you are at risk, make sure that you, if you're making masks for yourself, add a filter layer. You can buy these online, or you get a proper mask. The reason that I'm making these is I'm so horrified at the number of disposable masks that I'm seeing around the streets being littered around and eventually ending up in places they're not meant to be. So I'd rather be able to make my own masks and then wash them and reuse them after that, so that I'm reducing my waste. So hopefully these steps were easy enough, and that you will be able to go away and make your own masks or make some for the community, and yeah, have fun doing some sewing. Thanks guys. Just check that it actually does fit.